All right, we are at 3:01. Everybody, good afternoon. Very welcome to all our RENs, whether you are from CBD, you are from Esprit Agency, whether you're from Profia, or whether you are from Firdaus and Associates. Very good morning, everyone. Very good afternoon, everyone. Very good afternoon. Okay, of course, currently our session is a solidarity program between all 3 and 4 agencies. So I'm sure we have people from all their respective agencies. Okay, let's just do a quick group activity. Everybody just put in their agency names. I see welcome from CBD. I see welcome from Profia. I see good afternoon from Esprit as well. Firdaus and Associates is in as well. So guys, just type in a quick good afternoon and which agency are you from? Ecoland Realty is here as well. Very interesting. I see some tech realtors agents in here as well. All right. So can I get my slides up, please? Okay, hold on. Let me just put the slides up. Okay, so while everyone is in now, we'll just have a quick countdown before we start off our session, and I'll run you all through some house rules. All right, fantastic. So we are in our number 1, 2, 3, 4. We are in our 4th day between our solidarity program, and let me just share a favorite quote of mine. Like I mentioned, now knowledge is no longer power. The speed of sharing your knowledge is the actual power lah. Okay, Karen put no sound. Now can hear or not? Am I clear? If I'm clear, can somebody just put in a number 1? Okay, clear. So far, so good. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Sophia. Okay, so we all 3 agencies, we go by this motto together with Firdaus and Associates also lah. We want to make sure that we collaborate so that we have enough information, enough knowledge, and enough market knowledge on how to trickle it down to you all so that you all understand better ways to make your movement lah from this MCO forwards. Okay, I just run you all through some simple house rules first before we begin. The first and foremost, try your best any Zoom bombing, okay, whereby you suddenly come in and then start posting your listings, start posting your inquiries, okay? Here is not the place for that. This is a platform for constructive sharing of education lah. So any question in relation to the topic is very much appreciated. Again, I repeat, this is not the place to do marketing, yeah? So try your best not to be bombing our Zoom chat with marketing materials, okay? Secondly, if your webcam is on, that's fantastic. At least you teman the speaker on your webcam. We like to see all your smiling faces and energetic faces. And please make sure when you come in, you will be automatically mute, but we do allow the unmute button when you want to ask questions, okay? So we understand over Zoom, there's always a lot of parents and their kids around. So please make sure, if possible, all 100 of you, 100 plus of you in now, please mute your mic first lah, okay? Webcam on more than invited, okay? And then last but not least, as I always mention, the speaker doesn't know what you don't know, okay? So of course, this topic is a soft skill training topic. To get more tips, ask as many questions as possible. There's no such thing as a stupid question. All questions are valid. And when the more you ask, the more you know lah. Okay, so try your best to be participative and be constructive over on in the chat. All right, so moving on to the topic of the day. Okay, so the topic of the day would be effective closing techniques. Of course, broken down to this few alphabets, FBATC. I'm sure everybody is curious on what's this FBATC. So Aldrin will be running you through the FBATCs lah. Okay, so let me just give you a quick brief on our guest speaker. In fact, very popular in the market. Okay, Aldrin Tan has been running his real estate agency Esprit for the last 25 years. Aldrin's success is also a mass contribution from his education, where he graduated his degree in economics and accounting in the Australia National University lah. So of course, you all know ANU is one of the biggest. To date, Aldrin has built Esprit Estate into one of the fastest growing agency in Malaysia, with a compute of 10 branches throughout Peninsula with a capacity of 600 real estate negotiators. Okay, Aldrin has mastered the skill and lessons through the storms of 97 Asian financial crisis, 2008 subprime global financial crisis, and the recent 2020 pandemic did not deter him from pressing forward, which ideally enabled him to clinch awards such as Real Estate Agent of the Year, the latest one, 2020, Industrial Firm of the Year, Specialized Project, Best Practice Agencies, just to name a few. Okay, in 2021, Aldrin is confident in sustaining and achieving greater success and to encourage the rest of his peers to ride out the wave together. His company motto is "We grow by growing you." All right, so without further ado, let's have a quick test on Aldrin's mic. Aldrin, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Thai, and good afternoon, everyone. Can hear? Can?
Yep, all clear.
Okay, all right, okay. So let's start. Okay, all right. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy MCO. I believe today is the 5th day. Am I right? So what do we do during this MCO? As I said many times, our business doesn't stop. All right, there's a lot of things to do. Sales is just one part of it. Closing is just one part of it, which I know is highly important. But there's so much thing that we need to handle, and I'm sure everyone, all right, will have a lot more free time today, all right, and also during the MCO in the next couple of days. And let's hope that this lockdown for us, since at this round, we are not in the essential service, will not be prolonged, all right. But there's one thing before I start today's session, all right. The longer it's prolonged, hopefully it's not. Can you imagine the pent-up demand that's going to be? All right, people want to rent, people want to buy. Okay, so think about it. So ask yourself, all right, during this couple of days, all right, until 14th or 15th of June, and maybe could be extended, all right, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to gear up yourself? All right, because the moment the market is open means it's a race, all right. So as what we have seen, the first MCO come somewhere July, August last year, everyone's sales has actually picked up. All right, so today what I'm going to share with everyone today will be the closing techniques. All right, this is one that I use highly effectively for myself during those years that I was doing a lot of personal sales, and this is always a question that I always get is how do we do closing? So what is the thing that we say? All right, so what is the magic word? All right, I shared this I think about 3 to 4 days ago. I used to have this habit of doing this closing by just telling my client just buy. Okay, but it takes a lot more than just a statement. All right, closing is a process. Yeah, and it's a process where it starts right from the day you engage with your client. Could be a seller, could be a buyer. All right, the day from the day where your client actually appoint you, all right, to help them to sell or to rent their property. Okay, so so it's actually a process. It's not a one-time off. There's no magical word. So I'm going to share with everyone today 5 tips. All right, okay, a very systematic tips where you can actually follow so that your closing technique can be more structured. Okay, this is what I find a lot of people are not liking. All right, they are not liking because everyone knows what we need to do, and I'm sure most of you today would have already done almost all that I'm going to share with you. But then the sequence and the structure is very important. It's like writing a composition. All right, everyone can have the what you call the points right, but it's how you actually present to your client or your proposition so that at the end of the day, you want your client to put the money down when you ask them to issue the earnest deposit. Am I right? So there's going to be a 5 tips that I'm going to share with everyone that is, I find it highly effective for me and also highly effective for those that's actually attended the training and to practice it. Now, before sharing the 5 tips, all right, I'm going to share with you all the 3 principles that you will need to remind yourself so that when you apply these 5 tips, it will be highly applicable. So now the 3 principles are very, very simple. Let's start with the 3 principles that you need to bear in mind before applying the 5 tips. All right, first, number 1, in all sales or in all communication, icebreaker is super important. All right, so the icebreaker, it can be many ways. Today's topic is not about how to do ice breaking. All right, but your client are not dealing with Google. Your clients are not dealing with robots. All right, and in this business, it's actually also a human business. There's actually human interaction. So always remember, icebreaker is one of the key things, the principle that you need to do or you need to bear in mind when you are doing sales. All right, and so why icebreaker is very important? Because for one simple reason, icebreaker will open up the way your clients experience with you. And I shared this about 3 days ago as well. Does a client's experience with you, do they feel that it's very transactional? Whether you are just there to just sell and ask them to buy so that you can get the commission, and after that they will think that you will just poof in the air and disappear, and then there's no follow-up. Is that how your client experience is going to be with you? Or is it going to be something that is relational? All right. So, and I share this, and again, I'm not going to spend so much time on this particular slide. I shared this 3 days ago. The best effect is this: whatever your relationship with your client, all right, you have to ensure that your client do not perceive it to be transactional, but it's relational. All right. And so now, and when you have that relation with your client, communication is a lot easier. So communication a lot easier means you have the ability to build the confidence of your client in you. All right. And I say this again, confidence comes before trust. All right. If your client is not confident with you, how can your client trust you? All right. And if your client doesn't trust you, do you think your client would want to listen to you? All right. And if your client do not want to listen to you, all right, whatever techniques that you have, whatever knowledge that you have, whatever skill that you have, is actually quite very pointless. All right. So now, if you can master, all right, the first principle of ice breaking, whatever that your proposition or whatever techniques that I'm going to share with you, okay, the 5 tips, you can execute it effectively. So, so remember, principle number 1 that you got to bear in mind is ice breaking. Now, number 2, sales don't happen in one day. All right. Have you ever closed sales in one day? Of course, the answer is yes. All right. I remember the fastest deal that I closed from the point of the owner lease a property with me, and from the time I collect the earnest deposit, it's actually 3.5 hours. All right. But how often do we experience that? I wish it could be every month, all right? Not every day. Every month also, I can tell you, we'll all be a very happy agents on the ground, happily closing deal. Am I right? So sales don't happen in one day. So Well, you got to make it happen, right? And how are you going to do that? How are you going to make it happen? So this is a second principle that I want to share with you that you all ought to bear in mind before you start, applying all the knowledge that you have learned. All right. So let me just share one very simple video with you. Some of you would have seen this a couple of times, but it's always a refresher course. All right. Let's enjoy this video on how you can actually I will follow you. Follow you wherever you may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain so high it can't keep me away. I will follow you. Ever since we started out, I knew that near you I always must be, and nothing can keep me from you. You are my destiny. DG's widest coverage, always with you. I will follow you. All right, so for the information of everyone, DG is not a sponsor of this session. All right, so the point that I'm trying to make is this follow up. All right, Terrence has also shared, I think 2 days ago. All right, so the second principle is follow up. If you do not follow up, whatever that your proposition, whatever that you want to bring across to your client, it will not be effective. So remember, principle number 2 is follow up. All right, so now let's look at the statistic, and this is a statistic that I got from the National Association of Realtors in the United States. Unfortunately, we don't have such statistic in Malaysia. Now think about it. All right, I'm going to share this with you. Ask yourself, all right, you fall into which category? Now the statistic shows that 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. So are you part of the statistic? You don't have to tell everyone here. You know it for yourself, all right? 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. Okay, so which part of it that you fall into this statistic? 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and stop. Okay, only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. So I know some of you will probably be saying that, Aldrin, when I call my client also don't remember me. When I call them, they say they are busy. After that, I asked them to call me back, or they asked me to call them back. When I call them back again, they don't answer your call. All right. So so then what happened? So how do you follow up? So what, you start spamming their WhatsApp, you start messaging them, you start calling them. Then after that, when they don't respond to you, you try to find the reason why. Now it could be any reason. It's nothing specific. Again, remember, all right? Your relationship with your client is not transactional, all right, and it shouldn't be. Okay, so let's look at the statistic further. 2% of sales are made on the first contact. So what I shared with you just now, my fastest closing was actually 3 hours. Now, was that luck? The answer is no. But like it or not, statistic of you just getting a listing, you advertise, you reach out, and you get a leads and you close the deal, probably consists of just 2%. All right. So 3% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact. So meaning to say you really got to follow up, just like the yellow man, DG man. All right. If you remember the clips, the DG man is the yellow man even follow the customer into the bathroom or into the toilet. All right. So so then the biggest question is, when will be a right time to call? Okay. Generally, of course, not too early, not too late. Am I right? Now, apart from these two, anytime is a good time to call, because your customer, every single client of yours are different. Okay, there is no such formula as you call between 10 to 12, 12 to 2, or 3 to 5. Now, to me, anytime is a good time to call. Even if it's not a good time to call, how would you know whether it's not a good time to call? Is when you call, your client are not able to speak to you, then you will know that it's not the right time to call. But that doesn't mean you cannot do follow up. All right, and just look at this statistic. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So can you imagine how many times that you have to follow up with your client? Okay, and then you'll probably be saying, Aldrin, how I would like to follow up, But then my client don't seem to be responding. Now, following up, it's not just about just one property your client has seen with you and you try to follow up until 12 to 15 times and then you expect to close. It's actually a series of consideration that you're putting it on the table for your client to actually purchase a property through you. All right. So just bear that in mind. So the second principle is you have to follow up. You don't follow up whatever skills that you have, it wouldn't be that effective. All right. So remember, the first is ice breaking, highly important. And number two is follow up. Now, number three, very, very important. Understand the consumer behavior, decision making when they buy a property. Now, this applies to everyone and anything that we buy in life. All right, it could be you wanting to buy a car. It could be you wanting to buy I don't know, a pen or some stationery, a computer or a handphone. Think about your thought process when you buy, because we are in sales. All right, because you are selling a property, providing your service, you're selling a property or you're renting a property, you must be able to understand the consumer behavior. And this is what all of us constantly are being challenged. All right, buyer wants a perfect property. Now we go all sorts of ways and means trying to propose, all right, trying to match a perfect property. So so every buyer wants the lowest pricing, want the largest what you call build up, the nicest view, the best location. You know, could be fully furnished, could be a lot of things. Am I right? That is I wouldn't call it a wishful thinking, because that is a consumer behavior. All right, but you have to understand this part. However, they do not make a perfect decision. Now, if you did do a bit of a study, all right, or you look a bit of what do you call consumer behavior, all right, I will appreciate if the co-host can just do not allow everyone to
係我之前冇啊，要俾錢嘅，我冇去讀㗎，free 嘅我。
All right. Okay. Okay. Would appreciate everyone do not unmute co-host or all right. Okay. So now understand that when it comes to decision making, all right, there is no perfect decision making. Okay. And also there is no perfect property. All right. There is no perfection. So you have to understand that. So now why I share this with you is, every time I see a lot of agents on the ground, when they do the closing techniques, all right, one of the things that they always highlight is because of they want to find the perfect, all right, or almost perfect based on our customer needs, all right. And it can be very frustrating when you get the price right, the location is not right for your client. If you get your price right and your location right, you do not get the size right. Am I right? And if you get this three right, it could be something else, and you get everything right. The worst part is then the mom-in-law come and take a look again and say this is not suitable for my daughter. All right, then how? Then it's like, wow, you know what I mean? So so always remember this. So the three principles before I share the 5 tips. So remember, ice breaking, highly important. All right. Number 2 is follow up. You don't follow up, you know, things wouldn't work. And number 3 is you cannot do any closing or any sales hoping to be the agent that will bring the perfect property to your client, because your client do not make perfect decision. All right, so so the 3 principles. All right, so now let's do a bit of test. All right, okay. And I need everyone's participation. So so the question is this: which one would your client be interested to buy? So there are 2 blocks of apartment. They are all 3 bedrooms. So so let's do a bit of what you call a survey, all right, in the chat group. So there's apartment A and apartment B. They are all 3 bedrooms, all right. Now the question is this: which one would you think your client would be interested in? Apartment A at 600 ringgit PSF or apartment B at 510 PSF? So for those who say A or B, put it up in the chat group. Come on, guys. A bit of interactive participation. A. All right. Wow. PSF 600. Wow. Okay. I thought everyone are A, B. Okay. I also get confused. All right. Because I can tell you, everyone also will have a mixture of either A and B. But think about this, all right? What if this is a scenario? Okay, a 3-bedroom, 600 ringgit per square foot, and the size is 950 ringgit 950 square feet. Absolute price is 570. All right, and the other one, apartment B, is bigger build up, 1,200. Sorry, and the absolute price is 612. So which one do you think your client will be interested now, A or B? All right, now, okay, it could be A, it could be B. I can tell you there's no right and no wrong answer. All right, so how about this? Now, apartment A is freehold. All right, it has a higher PSF, is freehold, but the absolute price is lower, and compared to apartment B. Okay, so now what do you think? Do you think your client now will buy A or B? Now, this list can go on and on and on, and this is the part where every one of us that is on the ground, okay, we get confused by our client. All right, on one hand, they want a cheaper price. On the other hand, you know, they do not want leasehold, and then they expect it to be freehold, and the list go on. What if you have an MRT, the other one do not have MRT? Now, this is what we call the basket of goods. All right, so in the consumer behavior is such that when I say there is no perfect decision making, is every consumer, when they consume certain thing, there's this basket of consideration that they will consider. Am I right? And that particular thing that they consume, where they have this bucket of consideration, they cannot meet all the consideration that they want. All right, so so that is how it is. Then how do you actually handle that? Am I right? So is it because of now this one, if I ask you which one would you all want to sell, instead of which one you think your client will want to buy, which one would you all want to sell now? 5% commission or 2% commission? I'm sure the answer is all A. Am I right? So now, okay, so consumer decision is not perfect. Okay, so your client will have to go through a series of consideration. It's for you to be able to help them to make the right decision based on their needs, and that is where the what you call the closing techniques come into play. All right, so so then you ask yourself then, all right, so how do I create the secret weapon to closing sales? All right, closing technique is the most important thing. Yeah, so let's get on into that. So the 5 tips is actually a funneling process. All right, so so what are the 5 key areas you need to know so that your closing can be structured, so that your client understand, all right, how are you understand you clearly, and how are you going to help them to make the decision? And very often, of course, we want them to make the decision that we want them to make, right? All right, is to buy one. Am I right? But then it's not just as straightforward as it is. So the funneling process consists of 5 parts. So these are the 5 tips. Number 1, features. You are selling the features. All right, then how would this feature be benefit? Okay, the 3rd will be advantages. The 4th will be testimonial, and then of course when it comes to closing. All right, so so this is what I call the FBATC. All right, everyone is selling the feature. All right, and that's what a lot of agents are doing. Okay, and then you got to remember, how is your product going to be beneficial to your client? Okay, if you sell the feature, or rather you share the feature, and you are not able to display that how this feature is going to be beneficial to your client will soon lose interest. Am I right? And so even if the feature attracts your client and they think that, wow, this is very bad, it will benefit me, all right, then would it be an advantage that you buy this particular property as compared to others? Maybe he come and tell you others is giving more rebate, this one is and how come you're giving me less? Others got MRT station, how come you do not have? Am I right? So then this looks like all the variables that you need to look into, right? Okay, so now, so let's get in slightly more details into these 5 areas. Okay, so features. This is what everyone is doing, and this is what everyone think that is doing it right. But from my perspective, this is how I feel. Everyone is doing what they think they are doing it right, but not good enough. All right, and it's not very difficult to do that. Okay. Now, just imagine this. Okay, if this happened to be the MAPEX, all right, Expo, and you go into a hall, all right, probably in Mid Valley, okay, and there are 200 developers. So there are 200 booths. Okay, so you walk in, so you are a prospective buyer, and let's say you want to buy an apartment, am I right? So you walk in, okay, and you walk into every single booth. Okay, so everyone will tell you what is the price, what is the package. They'll tell you that it's low density, it's good view, okay, it's a distance away from MRT, or maybe one feeder bus away from MRT. Am I right? They'll tell you it comes with what with a full condo feature, with a swimming pool, with a gym, in everything. Now, don't you think that is actually very, very, very common? And we are all selling the selling point. Am I right? Okay. And this selling point is actually the unique selling point. But you pause for a little while, When you walk into that hall and you speak to probably 20, 30, or 50 salespeople of different products, don't you think that they are all selling you about the same thing? It's always about location is good lah, price is reasonable, justify the value lah, what else? Accessibility is good lah, facilities is good lah. Everyone is claiming theirs is the best, am I right? Wow, then how? Okay, so if you were to ask me, all right, this is where a lot of salespeople on the ground, when you come to closing technique, yes, you need to know what are the selling point, all right? But you always remember, when you share the selling point, or if you sell the selling point by sharing what the selling points are all about, this is not unique selling point. This is what I call usual selling point. So, so it's the same as well for those who are doing developers project. Imagine you're doing 5 developers project and you are given the 5 sales kit, am I right? So then the developers sales kit will always say there are 5 unique or 10 unique selling points of their project. So you read about it, they are all about the same one, correct? So how can this be unique to your client then? All right, because if you sell product A and you give them the 5 USP, so to speak, the other agent will also sell another product. They give the other 5 USP. How can you make a difference? All right. So if and unless, all right, you are able to turn the usual selling point, which are the features of the property that you are selling, into a unique selling point to your client, your closing will be tough. All right, because you have to remember, all your clients behave differently, okay? Some wants to have a certain feature, some will prefer to be next to MRT, but others may not be, correct? Some a die-hard fan of freehold, but others say leasehold is also okay, am I right? So then which is which? So then you must be able to understand your client. So always remember, when you sell your product, okay, and when it comes to this closing, which is a funneling process, by just sharing the selling point that you think is the USP or the unique selling point, in actual fact, you are only selling the usual selling point, which is also a USP. All right, okay. So now, so what is this benefit? So if and unless if you're able to turn the usual selling point into something beneficial to your client, then this is what I call unique selling point, because uniqueness is different for every single client. All right, okay. So what will interest your client with this one of the selling point may not interest your other client. All right, so as why they say some prefer MRT, some prefer freehold but don't mind leasehold. Okay, so so you get a host of variety of client. All right, so turning selling point into something unique to your client, which is beneficial to your client, will be the point where you are able to successfully turn the selling point into something that is unique and beneficial. All right, and you have to remember, every single consumer, if they do not see the product then give them a value or can be beneficial to them, then the next thing that they're going to do is they look for other products. It can be very similar, but then there's always something different. All right, okay. So so then how can you turn the selling point into something beneficial to your client? Is only one strategy. You have to understand your prospects' needs. All right, you have to understand what are they looking at. What is more important? Remember, everyone make a decision by a basket of goods. Okay, let me just give you an example. Okay, if let's say you have a client that come to you and say that he has a budget of 600,000, number one, and he needs 3 bedrooms, and he needs to be close to an MRT station, and he doesn't want a leasehold, and it has to be close to his working place. Am I right? Okay, so 5. The basket of consideration is 5. Okay, so now, so what if you have a product that is not close to MRT? Does that mean that your customer would not buy? If you have a product that is not close to MRT, but then it fit into the fact that it's leasehold and the pricing is there, hey, and so happen that it's actually quite close to his office, your client will be able to buy. All right. So again, like what I say, understanding your client needs is very important. So rather than you try to match what your client wants, which you know there is no such thing as perfect property, because for one very simple reason, perfection of the property, one can be perfect to one particular customer, it may not be perfect to others. All right, so so the second part of closing is actually benefit, how to turn the selling point into something beneficial to that particular client that you are looking at. All right, or rather you are trying to sell the property to. Okay, and always remember everyone's needs are different. Okay, so now the third thing will be this advantages. Okay, now our client are filled with a lot of options. Okay, it could be based on location, could be based on pricing, could be even based on developer, could be also based on design, and also could be different agents selling that particular property to them. All right, so then you've got to ask yourself, now that you have shared the feature or you have so-called sell the feature to your client, and you are able to turn that feature into something beneficial to your, with respect to your client's needs, okay, and then your client will seem to be a bit more interesting, a bit more interested. Am I right? So when your client has actually shown a bit more interest in what you are proposing, means your sales is able to continue on. Means you still have, you are still able to follow up with your client. Am I right? So now, then you will come to a point, all right, where when your client want to pursue further in their decision making to buy a property, the next thing is your client will start comparing. Okay, so it's the same one. Just remember, you put yourself when you want to buy a phone, right? Okay, so so you will start googling and you'll try to Google the one that is within your budget. Yeah. All right, so once you Google the one within your budget, you probably get about what, 6 to 7 results coming out. It could be many brands, it could be 6 brands, and they are different, but all fall within the same price range. Am I right? Then you got to look into a lot of things to compare. So advantages is one, is when your clients start comparing. Okay, and this is the part where a lot of salespeople will also struggle. Okay, I know it's not easy, all right, but this is a struggle that we all face, all right. So when your clients start comparing, your client will come and tell you, "Aya, you're only able to give me 5% return, and the other one is able to give 7% return." Then how? What are you going to say? All right, okay. So is it really true that the other product can give 7% return, or you'll probably be saying, no lah, sir, the other agent is just pulling your leg by just putting that at 7%. Do you know for a fact that the other product cannot be 7% return, or it could be many other comparisons? So this is the part that you have to understand your competitor's product. Now, closing is one part where when you come to your client exploring other options, okay, do you know what, first thing first is, do you know what are the other options your client is actually comparing with? Okay, because you have to remember, it's just like you buying the handphone processor. Okay, when you have narrowed down within the price range, you get 6 different brands, and then could be based on I don't know, could be the battery life, and you narrow it down to 3. Then it could be based on the color, you narrow it down to 2. So so you only have 2 brands to choose now. Now remember, your thought process of buying a handphone is also the same as the thought process of your customer buying a property from you. So when you come to the part that they look into comparison, all right, what are the advantages of, let's say, the property that you're trying to sell to them as compared to others? Now, you have to understand your competitor's product, is because if you do not, then you are not able to manage objection, all right? So how are you going to manage objection if, let's say, your client come and tell you, hey, within this vicinity, I have this particular other project. The developer is selling, yeah, slightly at a higher price. However, the design is actually very good, okay, and the design is so practical that I feel that, you know, I don't mind paying a little bit of higher price, but the design is practical, and my family will be able to live there happier than, let's say, a cheaper product that you're selling, but the floor plate or the floor design may not be so conducive for your client. Okay, so how do you manage that? If you do not know your competitor's product, okay, this is what your reaction would be. You do not manage your objection, but you will counter objection. There's a two different thing, all right, from my perspective. Now, just think about it psychologically. Nobody like to be objected and rejected, am I right? We are all doing sales. So when we do sales, and when our client object or reject, how do you feel? You feel demotivated, am I right? You feel frustrated, am I right? So one of the things is this: when your clients start raising objection, and your instant reaction is to counter object it, all right? Your client say this, they say, you say no. Your client say that, you say no. How would your client feel? Nobody likes to be objected. Am I right? So when you are not able to find out your competitor's product, the only thing is you will tend to say no, and you are actually just objecting your client by counter objection. All right. So it's a very negative thing. Okay. So now you have to remember your competitor's product. Where does your product stand among the competition? So there's actually the this is actually the what you call the third tips, where your client, before they make a final decision, they will start comparing. So remember, selling the feature, turn the feature into something that is beneficial, and then whether your product will give advantages to your client as compared to other products. All right, so that is an F and a B and an A. All right, so now and lastly on this, are the USP of your product you are selling able to compensate the imperfection of your product? Okay, as what I say, if let's say you have one that is have a very reasonable price, location is good, facilities is good developer, however is leasehold. So you have to remember whether would this four compensate the fact that it's leasehold. Now, if you have a client that say that I'm not interested in buy this, so you die also, you give me free also, I won't buy leasehold. So do you just stop there, or you try to convince your client? So this is the part that is also highly important, using the selling points that you have to see which are the one that your client may not agree, or is not part of the consideration, or doesn't meet the consideration of the basket of consideration before they make a decision. You have to use the other good selling point, all right, to compensate what is lacking in the eyes of your client. All right. So so this is the part that is advantageous. Now, fourth is this. So remember, you have already sell the features to your client, you know, and then you're able, all right, to a large extent, turn all these features into something beneficial to your client, and then your client seems to show more keen interest, and their process of making decision. The next step is to make comparison, and then, hey, you know, they your client find that, hey, yeah, pretty good, you know, as compared to other products that they have. Now, then the next part will be, how do you press the little button? All right, and this is the part, what I call testimonial. All right, share success and happy story. Okay, you have to do that, because why is that so? Is because if you are able to do so, you will motivate your prospect, okay, to buy. Okay, you do not motivate your prospect to buy by just saying that this is the cheapest price. You do not motivate your client to buy by just saying that this product has the highest rebate. All right, and you do not motivate your prospect to buy by saying that this is a freehold property next to an MRT. Because always remember, all right, when someone wants to buy a product, okay, it's a basket of consideration, okay, consisting of either leasehold or freehold. What is the selling price in terms of PSF, absolute price in terms of the facility, in terms of many things. All right. So now, success and happy story will motivate your client. all right, to make the decision and say, yes, I would like to buy. Okay, and that is very, very important. So what is this testimonial? All right, I give you one very extreme example. If you happen to sell a particular property or a project, or even a sub-sale listing within that area, now one of the very I wouldn't say extreme, one of the very prominent testimonial will be, hey, this product is so good, I myself also invest in it. Now, of course, it has to be true. All right, it cannot be something that you made it up. Okay, so and I used to have clients and tell me, hey, Aldrin, do you buy or not? If you buy, I buy. I cannot be buying every properties, all right. I don't have a printing machine, you know, money printing machine. I wish I have. All right. So so this is just one extreme example. If you happen to have invested in that particular project, okay, then you can share the testimony. What if you did not buy? All right. How about sharing testimony of, hey, the sales is so good, am I right? So so now that, okay, you imagine whenever we sell project, all right, we have clients who actually monitor our rate of sales one, you know. A rate of sales meaning to say, we have clients who periodically and quite frequent, they'll come into a sales gallery, and then they will check how is the sales movement, am I right? So now, you see, that is itself a testimony whether how saleable the product is. So this part of testimony is one where if you do not experience the testimony yourself, share the success story of your fellow agents on the ground. You can say, hey, this property is so sellable. My colleague just sold 10 units yesterday, or my company just sold 30 units over the last 1 month. Now, I remember one testimony that one of our clients actually gave to his friend, and we ended up within the space of 2 months, sold 30 over million. This was one of the property that we sell quite many years ago, Symphony Hills in Cyberjaya. This happened in 2012. So so what happened was we have one client from Desa Park City that actually visited Symphony Hills. In short, all right, on the same day, he bought one semi-D worth about 2 over million. Okay, and this is what he said. The design, all right, the planning of Symphony Hills is better than Desa Park City. And this is a real story, yeah, all right, it's not something I made up. Okay, and in short, all right, within the space of 1 month, he has actually got his client, his neighbor to actually come to Symphony Hills, Cyberjaya, and we ended up selling 30 over million to this group of friends that is staying in Desa Park City. All right, so testimony is very, very powerful. All right, it motivates your client to take the step further and get themselves ready to take the plunge, okay, and be committed in actually purchasing the property. All right, and of course, the last part of it will be closing. All right, so like I said, closing technique is actually a funneling process. All right, everyone start by selling the features, okay, and but not everyone can turn the features into something beneficial to your client respectively, all right, and individually, and not every agent will be able to turn the benefit into something advantage. All right, if you do not know your competitors' product, you will not be able to display out why this particular property will be highly advantageous to your client. All right, and of course, testimony is highly important. So when you come to the last part of closing, okay, so whatever that you say in closing is actually very important, okay, but whether is it effective or not will depends on whether was the testimony given, whether are you able to show your client that, you know, this particular property has more advantages than others. Are you able to show your client that it will be something that will meet his requirement by far and large, all right, and something beneficial, and whether are you able to share the feature, all right, fully with your client. Okay, once if you have done the first 4 steps successfully, closing comes easy. All right, closing are very simple for one simple reason, okay, because your customer would already agree with you that this is a property for them, all right, to buy, okay, and you just need to press that button, okay. This is a button, when you press, they will put the money down. And how are you going to do that? You have to ask for sale lah. You have to ask. I see a lot of agents, they don't go for the killing, you know, all right. they don't go for the killing, and there's a lot of fear. All right, and I don't understand why. You know, whether you think that is the right moment for you to ask for sale or not. If you do not try, if you do not ask, you will never know. What am I right? So there's no harm of asking, and you don't have to wait. All right, what are you waiting for? Okay, the only thing that you'll get an answer is your client is not ready. Fair enough. All right, then you find out why. Okay, or you probably get an answer that your client said, no, I'm not interested. Then at least you got an answer. Am I right? So if you do not ask for sale, all right, as what Uncle Roger would say, that is so weak. Am I right? So you have done all the work selling the feature, benefit, advantage, testimony, and this is the last part. Okay, so this last part could be anything that you say. You know, it could be, let's say, for example, hey, buy today. If not, then you know, the deal will not be there tomorrow. The rebate will not be there. All right. Remember, just 1-2 days before the 31st of May, okay, when the HOC is supposed to end, and I believe your conversion rate will have gone up. We were pushing customer, hey, please sign now. Otherwise, 1st of June, there will not be HOC. Am I right? Okay. So having said so. Okay, let me just mute. Okay, I can't mute because I'm not the host. Kai, can you please mute? We'll appreciate that, Kai. All right. So otherwise, it's interrupting everyone. So now this closing part is highly important, and so now it could be anything that you say. All right. Okay. Buy today. Otherwise, the deal will not be there tomorrow. Okay. And okay, let's move on to next. All right. So okay. It's actually quite interrupting my school of thoughts. All right. Okay. So we'll appreciate everyone. Take note. Do not unmute accidentally. Co-host or host, can you please ensure? All right. So okay, now, so when it comes to the closing, part, okay, you have to be a bit more aggressive. So all right. So okay, let me see whether I can. All right, so when it comes to the closing part of it, okay, now one of the things is you got to push. All right, now one of the fear why a lot of agents, when it comes to the closing part of it, guys, can you all just hold on for a while? Just hold on for a while.
Well, 那个 two story 的 unit 哦，它是里面是这样子的。现在 owner 不是空拿那个哦 ，sorry。
John Lai, please mute.
Okay, we are back into the session. A bit of interruption. All right. So, okay. So when you come to closing, why a lot of agents fear? All right, a lot of agents fear to push is because they fear that they are being aggressive. All right, but there is a difference between aggressive and assertive. Now, this is the part that everyone needs to remember, and this is highly important. All right, when do you know that when you push your client, you follow up very closely and say, can you please make a payment, and your client do not get offended is when this is a situation. All right, so you have done the FBATC. When you come to the closing part of it, now this is what happened. All right, so when you are trying to sell, you may be seen that you are aggressive. Am I right? So, can you imagine if you happen to be driving in your taman, you see two persons standing in front of the house, the one with the hand flying all around, and the other one with the hand that is holding, and you will probably guess the one with the hands all flying around will be the estate agent. Am I right? Because that's what we do. Because that's what I do as well. Okay, so now, so when you have gone through all the FBATC and your client seems to be quite interested, you have to remember you will no longer be perceived to be aggressive if your client is agreed to what you say, all right? And your client also feel and also agree with you that this will be the right property for him or her to buy. So this is the part that both sides, okay, if I can put it, both sides come to a mutual understanding that this is already the right property. So when you know that you are in that situation, this is where that you got to go for a queue. You got to start pressing the button and you got to ask for sale, all right? You can even give a deadline on, let's say, for him to buy, okay? You can even create the hype, all right, or create the limitation, because all this will only be effective if your client, the purchaser, is agreed, all right, and understand what you say, and they are about to buy, all right. So now this is highly important. So let me just show you a bit of a differences between being assertive and aggressive, all right. Now, before I share this with you, have you ever think about it? Have you ever buy a product where you are not too happy with the way the salesman actually follow up with you, and you feel a bit of the pressure, and you feel a bit of being annoyed because the particular salesperson seems to be very, very persistent? Am I right? Okay, I've experienced that. Okay, and I still end up buying it. Why is that so? Is because, well, I know that the person is what you call aggressive by following up with me for me to put the money down. Okay, but I want to buy. Okay, and when the fact that I want to buy and I have someone that aggressively follow up with me, even though I get annoyed, even though I get frustrated, I still put the money down because I want the thing that I want to buy. All right, so it's just as simple as that. If I do not want to buy, and the salesman keep following up with me and ask me to make a commitment, my instant reaction is to just say no, and I will not even allow him to even follow up with me. So you see, the timing of whether aggressive or not will depends on whether your client's position as to whether what is the chances of them that they want to buy, or whether the client have already made the decision to buy, is just fall short of putting the money down. All right, so being assertive, for example, is let me know when you have made a decision. Okay, now look at something that is aggressive. Make your decision now or you will lose the deal. Okay, or something that could be assertive. Can I have a specific date that you can make a decision? All right, so it could be any three of these. All right, but what I'm trying to say is this. All right, when you come to a situation where your client, you know your client is already so-called confirmed buying, all right, fall short of making a deposit. This is where the closing comes in. This is where you go for the queue. This is where you press the button. This is where you can create the hype, the limitation, and ask them to place a booking deposit. All right, so so there's actually a difference between aggressive and passive, and assertive is one where your client, even though can be a little bit annoying, all right, annoyed, sorry, not annoying, when you follow up a bit too close for a check, you have to bear in mind, all right, you still have to do it, all right, because everyone is different, because at the end of the day, what is the most important when it comes to closing is actually ask for sale. Okay, so so you don't really need to have the fear when it comes to closing by actually following up very closely with your client. Okay, in terms of putting the money down. What about in terms of signing the S&P? This is also part of the closing that is highly important. Always remember, bookings is just part of sales. All right, conversion will lead to where is the so-called conclusion of sales from a perspective of a salesperson. All right, so so that's how it is. Okay, so very straightforward session today. You know, the 3 principles and the 5 tips. Remember the 3 principle. Number 1, what you call ice breaking. Okay, number 2, you really have to follow up. Number 3, always remember your client do not make the perfect decision. All right, so bear these 3 in mind. And the 5 tips that I just shared with you, which is a funneling process, You got to turn the feature into beneficial to your client and make it into an advantage for your client to buy the particular product. You have to motivate your client by giving testimony, and then that is where, all right, your closing can be more effective. All right, so for the last slide of today, execute. The more you practice, the better that you get. All right. You may not fully understand what I'm trying to share today, or rather you may not be able to relate it, but trust me, all right, this process, you have already gone through it. You just need to be more structured. You need to be firm, all right, and the more that you practice, the better that you get. So like what I shared this a couple of days ago, success relies on whether you execute or not. All right, just having the knowledge without the execution, it doesn't work. And if you do not execute, it's as good as you do not have the knowledge. All right, okay. Thank you very much for your time. Now I'm opening up to Q&A. Yeah? Do you all have any questions that you would like to ask? You can post it into the into the chat group. Yeah. What can I do when customer asks me to give more discount by deducting my commission? Otherwise, you will buy from developer or other agents who give discount. Okay, I'm going to give a rhetoric answer first. All right, then you tell your customer you give everything no commission. All right, okay. No. It's actually not rhetoric. I actually done that before with one of my competitors many years ago. All right. Those days, part of the area that I market was Puchong, and you know, those days, more than 10 years ago, Puchong was Puchong lah. All right, okay. And literally, my competitors, all right, give free stamp duty lah when it comes to tenancy, no disbursement and so I follow. So all right, okay, competitive, what can you do? Okay, it's a dog eat dog world. So when it comes to discount, am I right? So have I ever tell my client, okay, owner, then in that case, I give you zero commission. Of course, the owner say yes lah. Did I close the deal? The answer no. So how do I overcome customer ask me to give more discount by deducting? Okay, now he will buy from developer or other agent to give discount. Now, when you come to that situation, okay, then it will depend on what kind of client are you having. There are many types of client, all right? There are clients who value long-term service that we are providing. There are clients who don't. Now, always remember, okay, clients who actually do not value long-term services that we are able to provide means they will just take it as something very transactional. So if you ask me if that is going to be the case, pretty much you are left with no choice but actually to follow suit to match it up. All right. Nobody like to do that, but then at times we there's not everything that we are able to overcome. All right. If that's still not good enough, then just give everything away and nobody closes the deal. As simple as that one, right? Now you think about it, you are already at a loss. So then you must well just don't make anything and just screw up the deal of the other agent. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. All right, but when it comes to a situation like that, my the frustration, all right, the level of competition is there, and we are in business, and sometimes you need to do what you need to do. May not be the best answer, but that is what I will address it. All right. How do you handle broker without rent that ask for half share of commission? How do you handle broker without rent that ask for half share of commission? Then my question is this. Okay. What if someone, a very large logistic company, one of the staff actually mentioned this, give you this list that the company is wanting to rent, and okay, I've got to bear myself that this session is recorded, and wanted to have a kickback of half a month, and the commission is 100,000. Do you do it? Now, if you were to ask me, okay, this is a profession, all right, and also we are also running a business as well. Okay, so how do you handle a broker without the rent Well, a couple of things is very simple. Okay, you know, you may want to advise the particular person. You know, usually our practice is to co-broke with a registered person, all right, or a brand. Otherwise, you don't. Okay, so if you're that particular person without the rent is not happy that you're not giving 50 and then do not want to do the deal with you, then you have to make the commercial decision. Either you want to proceed or otherwise. All right. Okay. Always remember, okay, we are governed by the Board of Valuers and Estate Agent. All right. We have the rules, we have Malaysian Estate Agent Standard and whatnot. Okay. But you have to remember there's also this part of the commercial decision that we have to make because you are running business. All right. Okay. So this is what my my advice to a lot of people every time when I'm being asked a question like that is, you know, if you cannot solve it in totality, then you will have to make the decision whether it's worthwhile for you to do or not. All right. And if it's commercially worthwhile for you to do, and you are not breaking any law, then by all means just go ahead. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. Any other question, guys? Yes. No. Okay. If not, then okay. Now I'll pass the whole session back to Kai. All right. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next session. All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Firdaus here lah.
Thank
Yes.
you, Adrian. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. So everyone, from CBD, Esprit, Profia, or Firdaus and Associates, thank you so much for making your time to join our session. As usual, tomorrow we got our session at 3 p.m. Tomorrow will be a panelist session, and the topic of the day will be certainties within the uncertainties lah. So a lot of macroeconomic perspective to bring in. It will be facilitated by ex-RADAR member, Mr. David Sia Chong. And of course, there will be a few guest panelists, a valuer, Mr. Aldrin himself, and likely one more of us principals from CBD or Profia. Okay, so before you all leave, please make sure if you have time, do scan our feedback. Please leave some details for us. We'll be sharing out the slides later on so that you all can read up on it. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for making your time. Do scan and give us feedback. We will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Adrian. Firdaus here lah. Firdaus lah. Tak dengar.
Dengar.
Alright, bye.
Bye.